have control to make them whatever you want to be. So I just wanted to give you a little heads up on how I approach that. And to illustrate that, I've painted the pieces of rebar that show a change in the pattern or the plane of this boulder. This is going to be a boulder fascia, if you will. The slide, as you can see behind, is right there, and those are the lengthwise, the ones that are going down the whole slide trough, the 20-foot rebar that the slide will start and carry you down there. There's a beginning point here and off you go. So this is just basically to camouflage, if you will, or hide the beginning of the slide so it doesn't look right off the bat like that's what it is. Down there, the sides of the slide will be faux rocked out and have some rises and some elevation changes, and maybe even a little bulged out rock built in with it. Just a shotcrete alone would do that pretty easy. It's about 1.5 feet above the ground right there. Add 2-3 inches to the upper area. The outer edge, which is the outside of the curve where the inertia is going to be pulling the rider up towards that, I make that a little higher to make sure everybody stays where they're supposed to stay and ends up in the pool, not in the bushes. So there's a wonderful little slide here as far as the length and speed. It's gonna be a lot of fun. I know it's hard to see with the rebar kind of being more air than anything else, but maybe if I go over this way, you'll be able to see. So at that piece of rebar that I put in, again, that's the beginning when all the rebar's sticking straight up. I'll bend this piece and then bend this one a little higher and all these verticals. So I create a pivot point, if you will, in the planes. And then I come in and I'll add a piece of rebar, if it's not one of the uprights, to create that pivot point where this is flat here and it rolls over and has a plane there. Obviously, this is the upper edge. This is sort of the peak of the rocks. There'll be a smaller one here and a bigger one here. And so there's going to be a negative space, a joint, if you will, between these two stones. And we'll play around with that. To illustrate that further, there's little dots. And those are where the rebar has been bent slightly, or more than slightly, right here. And I do it at an angle coming up. You can kind of see that's going up. So those have all been bent. They're ready for a piece of rebar to go right across there. And that rolls around. If you can kind of see that right there. And so that place right there is where the planes come and change and move up into the upper portions of the rock shape. This again is the top piece that comes all the way along the ridge line, if you will, of the boulder rock thing on this side. In here again is the slide trough. This one has the same thing, but notice that I set this one back. So this one comes forward and that one goes back. So there's asymmetry. You don't want everything lined up parallel and perfect. You know, the natural tendency of humans is to do that. So we have to fight that tendency. We want balance in our compositions, in our pieces, but we don't want it to be too symmetrical. There's sort of a balance in our asymmetry, if you will. Here's another pivot point right here and here. So this comes up and then there's a second little plane here. So you want multiple planes, variations in the design, moving things in different directions, and you're going to get a better looking, more natural looking project. This right here is the platform that leads into the final step up into the slide trough, and then it drops down in there. The slide will have 2 pipe feeds, one here and one over on the other side. They'll come out and then have a 45 that'll aim the water right to the middle. So there's a little dip right here, and so that's what that's about. The feed line for that will be that flex PVC underneath it, that white pipe. Down here by my feet, there'll be small stepping stones that will just pour into the shotcrete comes. We'll dig in a little bit and make some platforms for them so they're not going to be at all wanting to slide or move. And as we talked about before, all these footings are all flat. There's a terracing that goes all the way down. This side shows the same kind of change in directions. We've got this piece being a pivot point here. Down below, there's some little bends you can maybe see right there and there. Those again change the plane up and it comes over. And then this also comes across and kind of twists a little bit. You're always trying to get asymmetry, the rule of thirds, as I talked about in some of my courses. Good thing to remember, as opposed to fourths, even, perfect, vertical and horizontals. You always want to have that variety, that stuff, and you'll see that in nature. Just go ahead and check out nature and check out the real thing. You know, look at rocks in nature. That really is sort of our guide that we're trying to do. So down here we've gone ahead and we've got all these stubbed up. We did the side of the slide pieces, the sort of the bonding steel as they talk about with swimming pools. 2 of them on this side, 2 of them on that side. I finished the second one here during my last time here on the job. The slide ribs, which is what these are, I call them the ribs. You can roll them over with the Higgy bar and all this stuff, or the bender bar, and just roll them all over, bend them over and time in. This thing is not going anywhere, and that's before all the shotcrete is going on it too. We're going to add ribs into this, and we're going to add more 20-footer 3/8 inch to get the whole trough ready to go. It'll be poured all the way to the dirt. We're also going to backfill some of this with some rocks and stones to just save shotcrete. We have a big pile of those over there that came from this whole spillway zone where there was a whole bunch of river rocks just mortared into some mortar bases. Very sort of odd. I think there's pictures of that. And I'll just see if I can maybe put these into the video here. But